Sentry mode activated. Target acquired.
Hey there hunters, and welcome back to the Gunners Guild. Today we're going to talk about the Sunbreak weapon showcase trailers because of course we have to, and I wanted to wait for all the range videos to come out so I could do this all at the same time, and now we can. Plus it did give me some time to absorb and marinate in the new information rather than just jump to conclusions about said weapons. So finally we got the Light Bowgun showcase, and with that all the gunner stuff. So let me get it out in the open now, but I don't like the Light Bowgun showcase. It's really not what Light Bowgun needed, and I'll explain, so let me just dive into this. So first, let's talk about the new Silk Mine skill, which is the Wyvern counter. It's a counter mine. It's the same thing as the counter mine we had in Iceborne. They didn't show whether or not it still consumes a Wyvern blast mine or not, but it takes wire bugs, so probably not. Anyway, I'm a little disappointed at this. I actually loved counter mines in World, and they were amazingly fun to use, but their problem was that they took a mod slot, which was far too precious. In Rise though, the fact that this takes a Silk Mine is actually fine as long as they don't also use a Wyvern Blast, but being that it has Wyvern in the name kind of makes me think that it does, but that's not for sure. What I don't like about it though is that it's the exact opposite of a counter mine in World, and that they were very strong in World but provided no iframes, so you needed to actually space yourself properly to avoid tacks should it not actually stagger a monster. But they did a fat ton of damage if you landed them, and that it would stagger them quite often. I mean, they were really strong. Here in Sunbreak though, specifically, it says on the website that they are not strong. They don't do very much damage, which is kind of a weird thing to put emphasis on, to be honest. Like, instead they provide a ton of iframes and make retreating super easy. And I don't think Light Bowgun needed any more evasion stuff, to be honest. Like, you can already dance around almost all monster attacks, and while this does look reasonably fast, I don't think it would be very necessary with proper positioning already, which is kind of what you're supposed to be doing with guns anyways, right? And since they put emphasis on it not doing much damage, I mean, I'll wager that it really doesn't do any damage, and we probably won't be using this at all, especially if it took a Wyvern Blast Mine to use. I honestly would prefer it to be a switch kill from the landmines like it kind of was in World, since we don't use our landmines much right now anyways, as their hitboxes are kind of tiny and miss far too often. I don't know, it just seems kind of like another dead gunner skill though, right? Speaking of dead gunner skills, let's take a look at the switch skill Critical Firepower. This replaces standard shooting, I guess. It's like a changeable barrel mod. It looks kind of insane on paper in that it increases your damage by 30%, which is bonkers. It's like Heavy Bowgun scope, but without the scope blur. But you lose half your critical distance and you gain recoil. But yeah, 30% damage is insanely strong, no question about that. But let me explain why I don't like this at all. First, it's just boring. Literally, come on, it's just a number shuffle. You could have given Light Bowgun any other reuse skill and would have been better. A full house style reload that takes longer but reloads all of your ammos would have been sick. Roll to reload from World would have been cool since we have so many Light Bowguns now with low clip sizes. Or just like an adept evade that we could load stronger bullets into, but nah, we just get some numbers. It's just super boring to me. All these other weapons get like crazy flashy moves and stuff, and Light Bowgun gets number changes. Second reason why I don't like this is that it makes me think it's going to be like Elemental Reload, which made us lose 2 stages of reload speed in exchange for 5% elemental damage. That's dead and garbage because there's almost no bowgun that could actually get fastest reload with Elemental Reload on, and since it was only a 5% damage boost, you end up losing damage as it takes so much longer to reload anyway. Now here, if we lose at least 2 stages of recoil, again, there's going to be very few bowguns that can actually compensate for that and have the fastest recoil, even with full recoil skills. And if we have to drop recoil levels, even just from low to average and next tier up, that makes our shot times 0.93 seconds spacing instead of 0.6 seconds, which is already much more than a 30% damage loss anyways. So we end up not gaining anything out of this, we just have to put in more recoil skills. But who cares, bigger number, right? Now imagine rapid fire with this though. I mean, there's no way you're going to be able to hold on to that recoil. Now this does also specify that you can only use this with certain ammos, and I'd like to believe that it means no cluster, sticky, or slicing or stuff like that, but everything else should be fair game. If it's more limiting than that, then I'm just going to be even more sad. The only bright side of this I can think of is that if it only costs 1 level of recoil, then also doesn't work on level 3 ammos, then maybe it'll make things like level 2 ammos be viable, like rapid fire spread 2s and normal 2s and stuff, but then we'd probably just get stuck in the rapid fire pierce 2 meta like we still are. And lastly, I don't like that Bowgun is getting this huge fat damage bump skill. It's already as strong as Heavy Bowgun is now, and the last thing we needed is more damage. The identities of the two weapons were already getting blurred in 5th generation, and now I'll wager that Light Bowgun ends up being the stronger bowgun. We really needed more utility options or reason to use a bunch of different types of MOs like statuses and elemental and raw at the same time. Like, I don't know, am I the only one that's disappointed in the Light Bowgun showcase? Like, I don't like any of this. Now let's discuss the whole switch skill swap thing in general. First off, this is already a high evade action that they've shown. It's got mad iframes. Why does Light Bowgun need this, which is free, and Wyvern counter, which costs a silk bug? We already know it does like no damage, it's not because we get damage out of it. The other thing is that there's no reason for Light Bowgun to want to use switch skill swap on anything. Fanning maneuver is only used because of the 10% damage buff it gives. We don't use fanning vault at all. It's far too slow and you can't use it to evade consistently since all the monster hitboxes reach sky high. Then we have the reload switch skill, and that's a death sentence. Swapping to elemental reload or normal reload does more harm than good as you lose 2 levels of your reload, which you definitely can't compensate for, especially out in the field. Plus, nobody can build for both elemental and raw sets anyway, so like, what are you swapping for? Then we have the roll versus a short hop, and bruh, this is a fucking garbage skill. I'm mad they haven't done anything with that. Why would we swap from roll to short hops? Like, why is that? Nobody's ever gonna pick that up. There's nothing to gain for it. There's like nothing to gain for Light Bowgun using any of the switch skill swapping stuff other than just using it as a better evasion. And even then, it's either better than Wyvern counter or not. Either we won't use it at all and we'll just use Wyvern counter, and that way we're not going to use any of the switch skill swap stuff, or we're just going to use it as the evade because we don't want to use any of the other skills. We're basically just going to have critical firepower and fanning maneuver if we can. And again, we're only going to use the critical firepower if we can control the recoil penalty it provides. I mean, sorry, I wish I was more excited for the Light Bowgun stuff, I really do, but there's just nothing here that looks cool or new or exciting to me. Like, it's just the same old bowgun with some stuff shuffled around. I mean, at least Heavy Bowgun got Siege back, but I don't know, I mean, we'll see what happens in game. That's all for me, though. Thank you for watching. Good luck out there, hunters.